Now we move on to project updates.
Well, just a quick update on the community before we get into project updates. You probably know that metadata happened last week, Metadata Day. And we also had an experts panel within it that kind of spent a bunch of time talking about governance as code. We spent a lot of time the day prior workshopping and producing this deck, and then finally had a panel discussion. So would highly recommend checking it out, not just because I am there, but because there's a lot of really cool people up there who have a lot of life experiences creating and running governance initiatives and seeing how things work and when they don't. So I thought it was very useful. In fact, I went back and heard it and I learned something that I had not realized even during the panel. So I thought it was a good one. Go take a look at it or watch it. It's a long one, but hopefully it's enjoyable. But moving on, there was something interesting that emerged. So something interesting that emerged from that conversation was kind of an emerging architecture for how we should be thinking about governance as code, and what does a reference architecture for that look like, and what is the role of metadata or a metadata platform in enabling that. And what is interesting is it kind of really seems to play to DataHub's strengths in terms of its architecture and its capabilities. So on the left, you've got all your data sources, all your data systems really, and they're all producing metadata continuously, right? This is technical metadata as well as operational metadata. And we need a place to put all of that metadata in a large and complex and comprehensive graph. But then on top of that, we need business context like KPIs, glossaries, ownership, purpose, privacy stuff, all of that lives on top of this technical and operational metadata graph, but actually has links into it and back out between these two elements. And once you have both the technical layer and the business layer beautifully mapped and represented, you can then start expressing higher level policies, higher level definitions of good, as we said, against this combo graph, right? So you can start saying things like data sets that have more than these many owners and have had fragility in landing times, like they don't actually land very reliably, are actually data sets I need to pay attention to if they're owned by this team or if they're powering an important critical dashboard. So you can see how definition of good can span business entities or business context, as well as a technical or operational context. And you can now write these tests against the graph, and you'll hear about what we're doing in DataHub to enable these kind of things very soon. And you can now, with the actions framework and our ability to continuously evaluate change as it is happening, create downstream implications. You can go ahead and break a circuit, meaning stop a pipeline from running and producing bad data. You can start setting up retention policies in your data warehouse. You can start locking down access. The options are unlimited for what you can do if you can continuously evaluate that policies as tests and then take action on the results of these tests. So we're really excited about what this means for the future of DataHub, and you'll start seeing these kind of features start showing up in the product, and we're actually going to be talking about a few of them today. So that's my plug on what happened at Metadata Day and kind of the emerging reference architecture for the control plane, as we're calling it.
And just a reminder that we do have recordings on the DataHub channel. So we have recordings both from the panel talk and then also lightning talks.
Cool. All right, so now let's get into project updates. There were 2 releases that happened since the last town hall, and there's a third one that's coming up. Lots and lots of PRs. We're back up at the 200 plus mark in terms of PRs merged, catching up on a ton of backlog, honestly. There's still a few, and there's an important RFC that I'm personally looking at, the access permissions RFC. We also have a lot of new contributors, so really excited to see all of this. As you can see, Maggie has already highlighted the new ones and the repeat offenders. It's great to see everyone continuing to push this project forward. In terms of metadata integrations, we've got a new incubating Pulsar source, updates to the Feast connector to support kind of the newer versions of Feast. The previous Feast connector was only connecting to kind of the old style Feast API. We still have support for both of them. Improvements to Snowflake external, lots of improvements. You can read through it. Snowflake, BigQuery, Tableau. I'm excited about the dev experience and platform track because DataHub Actions Framework is now live. So you can actually take action on your metadata and do interesting things with it. Just like the picture said, we have released the Open API endpoint. So now you actually have a Swagger UI you can hit for posts, for gets and deletes. So you can have a much easier way to interact with your metadata graph. And something that I'm very happy about is we now have code-generated metadata ingestion source docs. So, eating our own dog food with respect to shifting left, we've moved all of the documentation into the source code, along with annotations for the support quality of an ingestion source and things like that. And you'll see it in how our ingestion source docs are now looking much more standardized and there's more freshness to them in the sense that when someone goes in and fixes up a source for a certain capability, we attach that capability to the source right there, and then the docs get automatically upgraded. Aditya demoed the blame view a couple of times already, so it's now in the product. So you can go to your dataset schema page and you can see how it's changed over time. It's the Git blame-like view. There's a more comprehensive diff view and a timeline view that's coming up later. And that's not all. We just merged in the Iceberg Connector. Really excited about this. Last time we announced the Hoodie connector. Now we have Iceberg. It's, as you can see, in testing status. So please try it out. Huge shout out to Eric L. And Surya for actually collaborating and making sure that this PR succeeded. It was a lot of work. A lot of different things had to get done. I'm very excited that it's actually pulling dataset statistics directly from the Iceberg metadata, which is very cool because you don't have to profile data twice if you can avoid it. Iceberg has detailed statistics for datasets, and so this connector just pulls those out and reflects them on DataHub. I'm also excited for what this means for upcoming maybe Delta Lake capabilities. All right. Another sneak feature that's there, and you may not know it, is deprecating data sets. So you can actually go to that hamburger over to the right of a data set and then mark it as deprecated. So I just today morning, I went to Asim's temp DB that he very helpfully named do not use, but I still went ahead and deprecated it and made sure that no one else was depending on this for anything critical. So you can mark it as deprecated, give it a decommission date, put a note, and then it shows up with a nice red pill. All right. And
hey, Shirshanka, Asim also posted in chat a reminder around SAP HANA and Vertica. You want to talk about those briefly?
I think those are being merged in, but I don't know. Did they get merged in already?
Yeah, that's what Asim is saying.
Oh, cool. So then we have two more incubating sources, SAP HANA and Vertica. And so please, both are in, all three of these are in kind of testing status, as we call it. So it's available for you to test and give us your feedback and we'll improve it. But that's not all. I went through the PR list and there's a ton of additional stuff that has gone in even since that last release. So we have an Airflow lineage ingestion plugin that you can just drop into your Airflow instance and it starts emitting Airflow metadata. There's a regression that we had with Airflow 1 support that we fixed. We've got a much improved S3 connector that actually speeds up ingestion a lot and also does sampling of source files. So that's going to really help you if you're already using the S3 source. We should be creating a CLI PyPy release later today, so you look out for that. Contribution from Boyan around enabling DBT to read artifacts from S3. A lot of people store their artifacts in S3, so this is very good. You don't have to copy it over into your local file system anymore. Mugdha improved the Spark lineage emitter to support for add support for the persist API. Previously, we were only supporting cases where you're actually non-cached kind of cases, and this one adds support for those kind of ASTs as well. You might have noticed John merged in a metadata tests PR. That's a huge one, and you'll see what that enables very soon. And there's more. There's a revocable token API that Pedro added. It allows you to not only, in DataHub, you can create personal access tokens and give them out to your team members, but now we allow you to even revoke them because, people leave the company and you want to rotate secrets and things like that. Justin added, this is only for the hardcore folks, refactoring internals of our entity service. Now we have a storage independent in-memory entity aspect model. Very excited about it for the number of different backends it will now allow us to implement. You'll hear from Justin soon. BigQuery, rate limiting for API calls, a very nice PR. Chris added fixed a lot of UI usability issues in one PR. So you'll see the product looking much better very soon as a result of that. And then there's also a very interesting PR that John added to make the authorization interface pluggable. And that means it'll allow us to add in external authorizers for DataHub very soon. Those are all the big things that have happened in addition to just the releases that went out.